there, my beautiful friends. If this is your first time to my channel, thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Emily, and today we have a beautiful new palette to try out. We have the Huda Beauty New Nudes palette. I am really excited to try this baby, so let's go ahead and jump right on in. So I got this puppy in the mail yesterday, and I purchased this guy for $65 US. That is an absurd price if you ask me, but I mean, it looks absolutely stunning on the inside. This is what she looks like here. And as you can see, we have some gorgeous foiled shades, and that's what I was really going after here. I don't really care too much about the mattes, if we're being honest. I think they're beautiful, but I am not like blown away by the color selection when it comes to the matte. But I'm not super crazy about this color selection. I'm the kind of gal that likes to go for bright colors, and this is much more muted than I would typically go for, but I do think I can put together an interesting look here. And the reason why I really wanted this palette was honestly because of Mel Thompson. I watched her reviews, I watched her use some of the glittery kind of shimmery shades here, and they looked freaking phenomenal, so I went ahead and took the plunge and picked this guy up. So rest in peace to my $65. You will be missed, but you get 24 beautiful shades of kind of mauvey rosy tones in here. And as a whole, this palette comes out to 19.7 grams for the entire amount of product you get in here. It came in this little box here, which has a frosted kind of milky white appearance to it, and I think this looks really clean and really pretty. And it also came with this little insert. I have it backwards. Okay, that's not helpful to anyone. It also came with this little insert here, and although I think this is really cute, I don't really know what I'm gonna do with it. So although these are pretty, I mean, it's just extra plastic and I don't really need it, and I really hope that some of the $65 that I spent on this palette didn't go into these guys. But I'm just going to go ahead and get started today by using my Urban Decay eyeshadow primer. This is just the OG basic one. I just have a little sample of it, so I'm just going to plop this guy all over my eyelids. So looking at the color selection, I'm not 100% sure what I want to do today. I think I'm going to go for a halo eye. Yeah, let's do that. And I'm going to go ahead and get started with this kind of plummy burgundy shade, which is called Spanked. And I'm just picking this up on my Anastasia Beverly Hills brush that comes in every single palette. And I'm using the flatter side of the brush because I want to be able to control the shape that I'm putting down because we are doing a halo eye. And just going to start placing this right in my crease and a little bit above it. This way I can start creating the shape for the halo eye. And my voice is kind of cracky today. I don't really know what the hell's going on. So I apologize for that, but I'm doing the best I can over here. And so far I've dipped back in one time and I basically got full pigmentation down onto my eyelids. Now I did not set my Urban Decay primer. I never set my primer because I want full pigmentation from my shadows, and once you place down like a cream colored shadow or translucent powder or whatever we learned back in like 2014 YouTube, it actually makes it so that your pigment won't be nearly as strong from your actual eyeshadows because there's really nothing for it to stick down onto and it just kind of fluffs away. But I'm just creating a really rounded shape here. This is typically what I like to do with halo eyes. I like a really rounded shape and then I like to flick them out at the end. So far I'm really liking the pigmentation of this shade. And this is the shade Spanked, and I think that the pigmentation is really beautiful, really smooth, and I don't think that I really had to work very hard to get it this intense. Which is nice because purple tones and burgundy tones can be kind of tricky to master. So I think that looks pretty cool. So I'm going to go ahead and take this Luxie 327 brush, which is a really small but fluffy blending brush. And I'm going to hop into this mauve shade right here, which is called Tickle. And just going to start blending this baby out. And let's see how she blends. I think that's actually blending really beautifully, and I wasn't really expecting it to. Not like I have anything against Huda Beauty's shadows. I mean, it's not like I have a personal vendetta against them, but I don't necessarily think that they're the most pigmented things in the world. But this shadow combination is so far really pigmented and blending pretty beautifully. Honestly, it better be blending pretty beautifully because I paid a pretty penny for this eyeshadow. And I just realized that I do not have my color switch in here. What am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? And I found a clean sock, so that's what I'm gonna be wiping my brushes off on today. Not the most hygienic thing in the world, but what are you gonna do? So now that I've wiped my Luxie 237 brush off, I'm gonna go ahead and hop into the shade Play here, which is a beautiful like peachy toned light tan shade. And I'm just gonna buff out the edges right in between the shade that we just placed down, which was Tickle, and my brow bone. So we have a nice seamless blend. My mind wanted to go with a halo eye today, but obviously my heart didn't because, as you can see, subconsciously I've done a half cut crease situation here, so I guess that's just what we're going to roll with today. Even though I was initially going for a halo eye, it just apparently is not meant to be today. So let's go ahead and deepen everything up, shall we? So I'm gonna go into the shade Love Bite, which is a beautiful, like, plummy, cool toned purple, and I'm picking up my Makeup Addiction Precise Blender brush, which is, of course, a teeny tiny little stiff blender brush here. And I'm just going to pick up a little bit of pigment because I don't know if this is going to be patchy, I don't know if this is going to be overly pigmented, and so far I'm liking the kind of burgundy mauve-y look, so I don't want to take it too deep. So let's just plop this guy on the outer corner here and see what kind of pigmentation we get. And that's pretty pigmented, but it's not super dark. I'm sure you could build this up to get it to be really dark and intense, but I like that it's not overly, I don't know, overly pigmented, I suppose. It's definitely pigmented, but it's just not super, super deep. And I'm actually appreciating that right now because I don't want this to be too deep. I don't want it to be too overwhelming and too smoky. So right now this is working out pretty well in my favor. Thank you, Huda Beauty Eyeshadow Palette. I leave for Florida in 3 days, and I'm going to be gone from the 10th to the 7th. And I am starting my packing today because I know that if I do not start like 3 days early, I'm gonna forget so many things. I do it every single time. I regret it so hard. I always forget like a shirt, or I forget to bring enough clothes, or I forget my toothbrush. Literally, I went to Seattle like 3 times and forgot my toothbrush every time that we went. I am like cursed by the packing gods, I swear. I haven't been out of my state for longer than 5 days in years, since like 2006, so I'm a little bit nervous. I'm kind of like a homebody, so I don't know. I know that Florida is going to be fun, but I'm slightly nervous for leaving my house for so long. I know that's pathetic, but that's just how I am, I suppose. So I really like what we have going on here. I think this looks really pretty so far. I think everything blended very smoothly and everything was very pigmented but not overly pigmented. So far I'm actually really liking this, and I know that purples and cool tones can be really hard to get smooth and to get to be very pigmented while still being smooth. Now there is a concealer shade down here which is supposed to be used all over the eyes to be able to get these really beautiful, like shimmery, kind of glittery pigments to stick down. So I'm going to go ahead and use that today to be able to cut out the crease here, and I don't know, just from swatching it, it feels kind of waxy and it feels kind of like, I don't know, it feels tacky for sure. So let me pick it up on my finger here and we'll see what it looks like. As you can see, it's not super pigmented by any means, but it is really tacky. And let me swatch it right here. Yeah, there's like no pigment to this. It's just like a sticky kind of translucent base. So I don't know, I'm excited to try it out. So let's go ahead and pick this baby up on a flat synthetic brush. And now that I'm looking at it on the brush, I can see a decent amount of pigment. So I don't know, maybe it just needs to be picked up with a brush and not with a finger. But as per usual, I'm going to tilt my head back and we'll place this guy down. Yeah, that's not really gonna work for me. Just for my personal preferences, I'm not going to be able to get a clear, clean line if I use this to cut out my concealer and to cut out my cut crease. Cut out my concealer, what the hell am I talking about? I'm not going to be able to get a straight line and be able to define my cut crease with this guy because it is so lightly pigmented, so I am going to reach for my tried and true here, my ColourPop No Filter Concealer in the shade 00, which is the white shade. I mean, I can't do a half cut crease without this guy, let's be honest here. But I appreciate them putting in a concealer for people who might not want to go out and purchase another base if they don't have one already, or who might not have a glitter glue or something like that. I think it was a smart move, especially because there is those chunkier shades in here and there is pressed glitter as well. So I appreciate that. It's just not really my cup of tea. But I'm just gonna start cutting out the crease here. So that looks pretty even to me. I mean, it's not 100% perfect, but are cut creases ever 100% perfect? I don't think so. Point me to someone whose cut creases are perfect. So now we're gonna hop into the gorgeous, shimmery, kind of glittery goodness here, and I believe that these are supposed to be used with a finger, so see a brush. I'm gonna go ahead. That was so corny. Whew, I'm a hot mess, but Let's see, what shade shall we go in with here? I think I'm gonna go with Fantasy because I want to use one of the glitters to kind of mesh together the mattes with the shimmer. That made no sense, but there will be a method to my madness here. And actually, now that I have my brush out, I do think that I'm going to apply some of the concealer base over top of my white base because this is very sticky and I think this is supposed to be used as a base to get the shimmers and the glitters to stick down onto. And it is really, really tacky when I touch it, so that's a good thing in my opinion. But I'm just gonna take my finger here and I'm gonna hop into the shade Fantasy, which is this gorgeous like rusty rose gold with a bit of a red undertone. And let's try this guy on the eyes. That is a freaking gorgeous color. Oh my god. That is stunning, and it's super pigmented with the finger, although I do expect it to be very pigmented with the finger because most shimmer shadows and metallics are more pigmented, obviously, when you pick them up with your finger. The only problem with having to pick stuff up with my finger is that I have like super long nails and I don't want to poke my eye out, so I'm gonna have to use a brush to get that inner corner, but that is okay. That's just the trade-off for having long nails. Anyone with long nails understands that. So it did pick up onto the brush here, so let's see if it applies with the brush. This is just a plain old flat synthetic brush, nothing fancy, no fancy bells and whistles here. So let's see. It's definitely applying with the brush. It's not nearly as intense as it was with the finger, but that's okay because it's just going in this little inner corner here and just kind of in the areas that I couldn't place my finger down onto. And then I can intensify it in the center with my finger. So I am okay with that. And these metallics are so interesting looking in the pan. As you can see here, they have some white, chunky, kind of like shimmer areas in them. And for me, when I first saw this online, I instinctively thought of blue cheese, like the way it's like speckled and patterned and whatnot. It just reminded me of cheese for some reason, and I don't know, that kind of sold me a little bit more because I love cheese. And I know that Huda's already addressed this situation, but the shimmers most definitely apply better with a finger, but they can be done with the brush. You're just gonna need a little bit more patience and a little bit more effort, which I don't really have either of those. I'm just kidding, but not really. So I know that the glitters are supposed to be applied with your finger as well, so I'm definitely going to tackle the glitters here. I'm gonna pick up the shade Infatuated, which is a bronzy, like pinky reddish kind of glitter, and it has a bit of a rose gold undertone, so I feel like it's gonna match the shade that we have all over the lid a little bit better than the other glitter here, which is the shade Excite, which as you can see is kind of like a blackened burgundy type of glitter. But I've never really been the hugest fan of pressed glitters, but I think that it's still cool that they're in here. I think you can top off looks with them really nicely, and you don't have to go in with a lot of glitter. You can go in with like a really small amount and pat it all over the lid and have just like a nice glittery kind of top coat, if you will, to go over top of what you're already doing on your eyes. But I am just going to basically use that method here on the outer kind of third area of the eye, and holy lord, that is beautiful. Oh my goodness gracious. Yeah, hello, that glitter is freaking gorgeous, and I'm not even much of a glittery kind of gal, but that's beautiful. So just to tie everything together, I'm just gonna take my Makeup Addiction Precise Blender brush and hop back into Spanked one more time here, and just kind of re-intensify this color on the outer V, just to tie together the work that we did in the crease and all of the work with the bat shadows to the glittery shades. And I know this wasn't the exact color we used on the outer V. We used the shade Love Bite, which was a little bit deeper, but I think that having this nice soft kind of burgundy shade will be a nice transition from the glittery goodness that's on the eyeballs into the crease work. Yeah, hi, that is absolutely stunning. I did not think that I was going to like this nearly as much as I am liking it thus far, but I am taking my Morphe M578, which is this rounded pencil brush. I always use this for the lower lash line, so that means it is time to jump right on down to the lower lash line here. And let's see, I'm gonna start with the shade Tickled. Actually, Tickled or Spanked? That is the question. I'll start with Tickled and I'll mix in just like a dot or two of Spanked, and I'm just gonna run this about 1/3 the way into my lower lash line. Like, do you see that pigmentation, but how smooth that applied? it's not overly pigmented, so you don't get too much product, and I'm not getting really any fallout, maybe a little bit from the glitter, but as far as the matte shades go, there's like virtually no fallout happening here, so I don't know. This seems like a pretty good formula, Huda. But just repeating the same thing on the other eye. So I wiped off my brush on my mock color switch, my sock. It's embarrassing. But I'm gonna hop into the shade Play again, which was the original peachy tan shade that I used to blend everything out on the top. Just gonna run this underneath the lower lash line just to blend everything a little bit. I think this look is beautiful, and it's not anything that I was expecting, so I'm a happy girl right now. So eyes are all done as far as the eyeshadow goes. I'm gonna go ahead and hop off camera, throw on some inner corner and some brow bone highlight, pop on some liner and lashes, and we will meet right back here to talk all about my final thoughts about this palette. Alright my darlings, I am back with liner, lashes, and some lipstick on. So I went ahead and popped on my usual everyday go-to Go Big or Go Home lashes, and I actually mixed together the shade Love Bite with a little bit of a shade from a Juvia's Place palette, which was a berry shade, to make this berry liner that I have going on here. And after I did that, I was like, oh crap, what have I just done? I'm trying to do a review on the Nude Nudes palette, and then I go and reach for something from Juvia's Place. So I personally apologize for that, but the rest that is on my eyes right now is from the Nude Nudes palette, other than the berry shade that you see in the corner here and on the lash line. So let's get into my final thoughts. Now I definitely think that this palette is expensive, and I'm not going to change my mind about that because it is expensive, okay? This is almost $70. Actually, it is $70 after tax, so let's just call it 70 bucks because that's what it is after tax. But I think that the color scheme is absolutely beautiful, and I don't think that the internet necessarily does it justice. I think this is one that you're gonna need to test on the eyes to really see the true beauty of it, because I don't even like shades like this, okay? I like warm tones, I like pinks, I like warm purples and bright neon purples, but I think that this eye look that I got here is so like soft and flirty, and I absolutely love the colors that I put together, and I think it matches with my hair really well. I think this matches my skin tone really well, and I altogether just really enjoy the way that these colors paired together. And I think that you can do a lot with this palette, even though a lot of the shades might look kind of similar. I think that you can get really soft, kind of rosy mauve-y looks. You can go for something really deep. You can go for something that's kind of in the middle like I did today. And you have all these different textures in this palette, and they're all fairly easy to use. I mean, I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of pressed glitters, but I'm not getting any transfer up into my crease, and I have slightly hooded eyes, so I do get transfer into my crease. It's just inevitable. But I put down the concealer shade as a base for those, and I think that they adhered pretty freaking well to the concealer shade, and I was kind of surprised by that, to be honest, because usually I have to whip out my NYX glitter glue, and my NYX glitter glue did not make an appearance to this party here today. And she's a little bit upset about that because she's usually always invited to the party, but not today, Miss Glitter Glue, not today. Now you get 4 of those really beautiful kind of blue cheese-esque looking metallics that have the white kind of specks and shimmers in there. And they have so much dimension to them, and I really like the way they look in the pan. I think they're really interesting to look at, and I think that they just translate onto the eyes so beautifully. They're so metallic, they're so strong and pigmented, and they're absolutely gorgeous. And I like that all of them are kind of wearable shades, I guess, if you want to say that, but you can definitely pair them with some darker colors to get something dramatic, or you can stick to the lighter shades and get a really soft and pretty look. I think that these are the perfect shadows to just pop all over the lid and then call it a day and basically just wear the one shadow for the entire day. I've been loving that type of look, and so I am going to absolutely reach for this palette quite often to be able to do that, and to reach for the mattes as well. And I'm honestly quite shocked that I'm sitting here and saying that, because I was prepared to say that the metallics are good, the pressed glitters, they're whatever, the pressed glitters, and then the mattes are just kind of okay, and that this isn't going to be worth your money. That's honestly what I was expecting. But I think that if you want this and you don't already have colors like this in your collection, and you want to get a really high quality palette that you're going to be able to get really pretty looks with, I think that this is actually a good purchase if this is the kind of color scheme that you're going for. I don't necessarily think everyone needs this, of course, because not everyone has the money to shell out for a $65 palette. I mean, that's freaking insane, and I think that this is definitely overpriced, don't get me wrong, but I think the quality is there, and I think that the actual shadow performance just kind of proved itself that this is definitely worth the hype at least. I think that this would be much better if it was priced at like the $55 range, maybe even the $60 range. But because of the extra tax that gets tacked on to the $65, it makes it a $70 palette. And $70 is so much money, and I think that just putting it at like a $60 or a $55 price point would just look so much better, and people would be a little bit less hesitant to want to purchase this. But nonetheless, I'm actually very, very pleased. And honestly, I don't know if you can tell, but I'm kind of in shock about it because I wasn't expecting to like this or to have these perform in the way that they did. Now I'm gonna have to test it out a little bit more and play with some of the lighter shades, but this guy has made its way and earned its spot into my suitcase to go to Florida, and I'm gonna test it the whole time that I'm there, and I'm really excited to do some looks with this. I'm surprised right now. I'm kind of in shock, but it's happy shock. And before I go and wrap this video up, I just wanted to let you guys know what types of shadows you're getting in here. Now, previously I said 24 shadows are in this palette, but it's actually 18, so my bad. Math is not my best subject, okay? But we have 10 different varieties of light, medium, and deeper toned mauve and rosy shades, and even some burgundy tones. Then we have 2 pressed glitters, and then finally we have 4 of those beautiful, really high shine and interesting shimmery metallic shades. And then we have this guy over here, which is Kinky, which is a little bit different than the really high shine shimmery metal. Now Kinky doesn't have those gorgeous flecks of iridescent and kind of like white shimmer, if you will, throughout the actual pan itself that are in these 4 over here that make them really unique and that make them kind of look like blue cheese, as I said earlier. I can't believe I'm actually calling it that on camera. That's like the highest form of personal embarrassment. But Kinky doesn't have that, as you can see here. And when I swatched it, it swatches more as a traditional metallic that we would see in just basic everyday eyeshadow palettes. So I kind of wish that it had the really pretty flecks that are in the 4 special shades, because it would just make it more special. I mean, if you're gonna put those in there, why not make all of them that formula? I don't know. I'm not Huda Beauty. I'm not the gal to ask. I think if you have the money and you want this palette, I think it's worth the splurge. But if you don't have the money and you do want it, I don't know, maybe save up for it, maybe ask for it for Christmas, because it is very expensive and I think you'll be okay without it. I just really like the formula, and I think there's something special with it. But with that being said, that is going to be wrapping up this first impressions on the new Huda Beauty New Nudes palette. I really hope that you were able to find this helpful and you enjoyed watching it. Are you considering purchasing this guy, or are you going to be skipping over it? Have you already purchased it? Have you tested it out? Let me know your thoughts, because from what I've seen, everyone kind of feels the same way as me. But if there's someone out there that's purchased this and that doesn't like it, please let everyone know in the comments below and let everyone know why. But with that being said, that is going to be wrapping up today's video. I do hope that you consider subscribing if you have not already. I am doing all sorts of makeup goodness happening here on this channel, so if you are not already subscribed and you would like to be, I would love to see you hit that button down below. I do also hope that you consider giving this video a big old thumbs up and turning on the notification bell if you enjoy my videos and you want to see more of them. But I hope that you are having an absolutely amazing and beautiful day wherever you are, and thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you next time. Bye!